it starts at the top, and it starts with, I think, the leaders realizing that this is not a nice to have, but I think it's a moral, strategic, commercial, economic imperative on all those levels. And we set up an inclusion diversity council in our region consisting of CEOs, like-minded CEOs who are committed to this. And we sort of held each other to account to say, the targets need to be set, the actions need to be identified, and lead by example in so doing in your leadership teams and cascaded throughout the organization. We've pushed very hard on this topic within our own firm as well, and we've managed to move the needle, not as far as we'd like. We're up to about 37% overall. We'd like to get to 50-50. And so we'll continue to push on that, but it's not an area that is solved overnight. It requires, I think, constant vigilance, new ideas, and really courageous leadership to keep pushing on.
But I think that, look, I'm here because there was somebody who believed this could be the right thing, right? And I think there has to be this sponsorship. There has to be this push from the ecosystem, because no one can be successful on their own. We make people successful.
I believe that in 10 years from now, nobody argue anymore about gender equality. I think the narrative is out there. So that is there. I think now we need action. We need action that will take us there. But more important, today, women are confident that they can do whatever role is going to be offered to them. This, in my opinion, has changed, because now there are a lot of champions out there that has, president, this, that, done all kinds of jobs. So there are examples. I think, of course, we need to stay vigilant. We need to continue to make sure that we monitor the progress towards our ultimate goal. The journey is in an acceleration phase.
The perspective needs to continuously change. My perspective, 30 years ago or plus, when I had my kids, about what diversity means, is totally different to now watching my daughter with her daughter and what she has to go through. And we need to continuously evolve this.
The experience over the last couple of years has not been great if you think about it. Those that sort of joined during COVID, the COVID experience has been a disrupted one where people have spent a lot of time at home. That should be okay, right? You're sitting at home, screen, relaxed. But I think what we don't realize is that the ability to learn the culture of the organization is much more difficult. Flexibility does not necessarily mean an easier way of doing things, especially if you're the junior person, because if your team leader is being flexible in terms of when they schedule meetings, let's say I want to have an activity between 5 and 7 in the evening, and the time that works for me is 8 in the evening. And the person that's bearing the brunt of that flexibility, the variable, if you like, is the junior person within the organization. So the experience of flex and hybrid is not that great. It's not as great as we might think it is. People are probably looking for 3 things. They're looking for flexibility, for sure. They're looking for a culture. So they want a place where they can learn and connect and have a team environment, and they want to be paid well.
We used to typically club everything under the same, title, which is learning and development, L&D. But it's not. It's not. The training is one thing. Learning and development is a completely different thing. And the more you think about it, you realize what you're going to give your employees. By giving them training, you're actually giving to get. You're giving to receive at one point. You want them to become upskilled so they know how to do the job. But then again, learning and development is really something they take, and they do their job better. They become better professionals, and they take that with them somewhere else maybe. Mm-hmm. So it's giving to a certain extent with no return or with, not as direct return. I think there's definitely a talent crisis with the Great Resignation, with leaders and companies focusing more on what can I do better in terms of HR and development and so on. But I think all of this is linked to this exchange of what am I giving the employee and what am I getting back, and really being honest and humble about this is an area where I'm going to give and eventually I will take back. I want to give you reason. I want to invest in you. I want to give you purpose. I'm going to think hard and deep about why you are here, what I can do to bring you back tomorrow and the day after and the day after and so on, right? So I think these are topics that I don't think we thought about them as deeply as now, maybe 2 years ago. So that's why, again, I say it's a different world today.
All of these leaders now, in Saudi Arabia with Vision 2030 and what they want to do in Neom City, in the UAE with the plans for sustainability, everywhere you go around, they are the ones that are leading that whole thing around energy transformation and making commitments. But yet the businesses are not, which is a huge disconnect. And there's a part for the CEOs in this part of the world to really step up, because the leadership in this part of the world are making these commitments now, and they need to be aligned.
My point earlier was that I don't think people have grasped exactly what it means, and I don't think it's for lack of commitment to it necessarily, but it's perhaps not realizing that this is actually really fundamental. I mean, the climate change is the fundamental issue for our generation to deal with. And maybe we're in a part of the world where people aren't feeling the effects of that directly, or perhaps the other factors that put pressure on this from an investor point of view, from a shareholder point of view, from an employee point of view, from a regulatory point of view, from a lending, all of those pressures which normally focus the mind of CEOs on this topic maybe aren't as strong as they could be, but they certainly will be. I can assure you of that, because this is the topic on people's minds.
I think when it comes to our region, I was not surprised actually when it comes to the sustainability, but I think it's just a question of time, because like now UAE, Saudi has clearly declared some ambitious goal when it comes to sustainability. So, we know that in this part of the world, when the government kind of commit to something, generally the implementation is pretty fast. In addition to that, there is the young population. They are always looking at global news. They want an acceleration. There are multinational people sitting around this table that we have embraced that in other parts of the world, and we are totally committed to accelerate. So for me, I think, yes, we have a gap. It's a pity to see that some CEO believe that is not an important thing, but I am totally positive that, maybe not next year, but 2 years from now, you will see this gap of what's going on here, which what's going on in Europe or in the US, I think has closed a lot. I'm totally convinced on that, because I really believe on the implementation ability in this part of the world, that when things happen fast.
But to achieve the targets, it cannot just be the government to do this. This has to be a partnership between all the stakeholders that are involved in this, whether it is technology providers, or whether it's the consumers, or whether it is the policymakers, or whether it's subcontractors. And that's why I think there has to be a way to bring in the rest to accelerate this, because it's commitments by 2030. It's not easy to achieve without a strong collaboration. So there has to be that mechanism to do it.
21 was setting that foundation for what is a different world today. And that world is a world where there are lots of opportunities. But to address those opportunities, you kind of have to change the way that you work, the way that you operate, the way that you deliver. And if I bring that to life a little bit, our business was thousands of people charging time to projects, employed full-time, working physically. And I think 2022, it's becoming quite clear that the business is about people working very differently. Some of those people are full-time employees. Some of them are contingent workers that work on a project-by-project basis. Some of them sit in delivery centers near shore, say Amman or Cairo or India, and deliver the work that way. Some of what we do has been completely automated and digitized, and so the sort of crunching of numbers is using now digital technologies to process, analyze, present information in a completely different way. So what we do is quite different. And so the opportunity is there, but how you address it, I think, is very different.
A lot of people who came back to the office really like that interaction. So I will see a more shift towards the physical part of it as people feel more comfortable with moving into an endemic, moving into more vaccinated people, less contagious, hopefully, variant in the future, for people to shift more into the physical presence, because that interaction is really critical, especially for entry-level employees.
I believe we will go for a more flexible environment. And in Dow, we took an approach that is more a design your day. So every department function is going to decide what they are going to do. But of course, has to be clear in between the employee and the function and the business. And then will be, in the end, an hybrid. And in my opinion, will be something like 3-2, 2-3, 4-1. So we will keep the offices. We have plans. We have customer. We need as well to be present. There will be jobs that probably will be done totally remotely, because it can be. And if we feel that in that situation is the best way to go, we go.